When the body approaches death, most people think healing stops, but healing continues in powerful ways across every aspect of our being. In this video, I show you how to stay with the healing, even when it feels like everything is coming apart. Hey there, it's Suzanne Clegg. Welcome to the weekly distance healing. So today I have a kind of a sobering topic, which is that I usually don't talk about. I usually talk about it privately with my one-on-one clients because it is very tender and profound, and it's easy to trigger people if they're in various states of disrepair. But I'm going to try it, and let's see how it goes. So I want to give you a taste of how I orient myself when, and how I help other people orient when illness is bringing us close to the threshold of life and death, that very important threshold. And this is not going to be a talk about philosophy. It's not about being spiritual or smart. It's about healing. And it's healing in its widest, deepest, most honest sense. And I think that's what makes the difference here. So one of the most important things I can offer here is that death is not a failure in healing. And that's not a poetic statement. It's something I've observed again and again across decades of clinical work with people, with animals. And at 67 years old, it also comes from a seasoned, lived-through wisdom that only time grants. So let me show why I think the way I do about this, and hopefully it will help you. And all right. So the misunderstanding that success with healing means survival. In our culture, living is considered a success and dying is considered a failure. And we fight death, we resist it, we treat it as an enemy. And it's sort of ridiculous because that means we all failed at life. If we die, like if 100% of us die, that means we all fail. Like, there's got to be a richer, deeper context to put this in, right? And of course we grieve when somebody dies. And of course we long for more time. And of course we do everything we can to support physical healing. I'm really good at that. I really am good at helping people live longer and recover. But so nothing in this talk about embracing healing through death replaces any of that, okay? Nothing denies that. But that narrow equation of living equals success, dying equals failure, just doesn't match with what actually unfolds in our human existence. It's very myopic. So a couple images that can help you relate to this. Like imagine a rose. So you can see the petals blossoming. So you see this beautiful rose. And then it starts to wither and the edges brown a little bit and then the petals start falling off. And if you focus only on this single blossom, you might think something precious is being lost. And it is. Something beautiful is letting go of its form. It's a genuine loss, right? But when you widen your gaze to see the entire plant, you see multiple buds popping out here and there, these signs of new growth, new beginnings. And you realize that there's a withering happening and a blossoming happening at the same time. And this pattern is everywhere. It happens holographically across all of existence. So that part's philosophic, okay? But it happens in countries. this withering and this blossoming. It happens in cultures. It happens in family systems. It happens in disease and recovery. It happens in planetary cycles, like the whole solar system was born, and then it'll somehow have this life cycle that goes through it. It happens in generational shifts. Like older generations feel what is withering, and younger generations build what the older people can't even comprehend what's going on. This withering and blossoming happens in the body. It happens in the soul. It's holographic. And withering and blossom are really not opposites. They're phases of one coordinated system. So once we take this in, the question of did the person get cured stops being the only measure of healing. This is really helpful if you've had someone die, because the guilt, like I could have done something different, like I failed them. If we can really understand this, we get, of course we have those feelings, but they don't define us. And did this person survive becomes one data point in a much larger system of transformation. Now, the way I can help you see this is my 4-octave way of viewing reality. Whether someone's recovering or dying, there's always 4 dimensions moving together. I speak of them as the physical, the life force, the emotions and images, and the spiritual. And this is not just a theory, it's a way of noticing reality and helping it become more accessible. Because we all have our little preferred perspectives, and if we broaden out to the other octaves, we can't help but create a more whole look, a more true look at what's going on. So we might look at the physical. The body might be withering, weakening, letting go. We might look at the life force. Something intensifies, something quiets, something becomes easier, something becomes more uncomfortable, like the digestion, the sleep, the pain, the breathing, like all these life force processes change, and you can observe them. The emotion and the imageal, the emotions and the imagination, the images might evolve, the emotions might release. There's a maturation process that happens. This is all important, holographic, holistic comprehending of the enormity of the event of death. And then, of course, there's spiritual. If a deeper presence starts descending, forgiveness happening, a widening, a softening, a clarity, that is a type of healing. And it's common for it. It's actually very common for it to happen at the threshold of death. It's nice to label it as healing rather than as failure, because it is healing. All right. So what looks like decline on one octave is actually blossoming on another octave. And if you can look at this holistically, it's not that you don't still want the physical healing, of course you do, but it helps you put it in a context of a larger picture, and it's deeper than, oh, find the silver lining. That's like so trite that it's almost insulting. I'm talking about an embodied awareness of the beauty of the present moment. And we don't have to pretend it's pretty. We don't have to like it. But this truth-telling, this honesty, that's the heart of healing. Okay. All right, so when the body is letting go, something else often becomes beautifully available. I've seen people resolve lifelong tensions in their final weeks. I've seen families reconcile. I've seen peace enter the room in ways that were never accessible before, in ways that I think help the dying person let go of their body, and the ways that nourish and strengthen those that are left behind. It's like the process of transformation was so pregnant with a loving presence that that you can hang on to it as a not what you wanted, but that there was something profoundly validating and honest about that experience. So none of that is failure. It's actually a beautiful opening into a new way of orienting yourself in the world. It is healing. Healing is the return to wholeness. And sometimes the return to wholeness takes the form of physical recovery, and sometimes the return to wholeness requires a transition, or just does it that way. I don't know if it requires it. But so dying is not the opposite of healing. Dying is just one way the system completes itself and new beginnings happen. All right, so how do we participate in that healing? Like, that feels like a lofty thing, like when you're in the midst of all this. So you do it by witnessing, not by controlling. Not deciding which octave is allowed to speak. We're only going to focus physically, or we're only going to focus spiritually. Like, that's not so helpful. Witnessing in a helpful way means we stay with all these levels of awareness simultaneously, or at least rotate through them in some way so that we get the whole picture. We honor the physical even as it withers. We honor the emotional movement even when it's raw, and it gets raw. We honor our imagination as it begins to speak. We honor the spiritual dimension without escaping into it. It usually comes to us if we're truly in the present moment, and it's deeply, deeply, deeply renewing and healing. So how does this work with the Bengston Method? So in the Bengston Method, we work with a list of things we want. We're very clear about them. We want the cancer gone. We want them walking out the door tomorrow, or today, or right now. That would be even better. And we create clear images of this is what we desire. And there's no ambiguity in that desire. And there's no like acceptance thing of the opposite. That's what we want. Simple. And then we memorize these images, and then we cycle the images rapidly enough so that they disappear. They're there, but they're not. And what remains is a felt sense of their presence, but our focus is in the here and now, in the present moment. This is not giving up the desire, it's holding it without being consumed by it, and it's magically powerful, which is why I've stuck with the Bengston Method for so long. It really lets you have your desire and surrender it at the same time, which is like an engineer's enlightenment. It's really practical and helpful. All right. So Bengston Method engineers this quality of being able to witness in a way that holds the whole, rather than just looking for what we want. Okay, which is more what positive thinking does. Okay, so what does it look like to heal at the threshold of death? So true healing is a reorganization of our whole being. It could be a reorganization of a whole family system, depending on the individual's role in a country or a culture. It could be part of that whole thing. Sometimes I think the death of a mouse is as important as the death of a president, but it's like you can feel into the whole and feel the ripples of the connections moving. So when the healing happens, there's a coherence that brings someone back to full vitality. And sometimes that vitality is on the other side of the veil, and sometimes it's on this side of the veil. One we call healing and the other we call death, but I suggest that there's healing in both. And transitioning is not failure. It's a movement into another state of existence. It's part of the wholeness that is so integrated into every moment of human existence. The life-death cycle. And I'm not talking reincarnation. I'm talking about, you plant a seed, it grows into a plant. There's this whole cycle of things dying, feeding those that are living. It's when we think one thought, we kill another thought. It's like this life-death cycle is the breath of life, actually. And when we can participate it with consciousness, a deeper, broader healing happens, transformation happens, evolution happens. And it's supportive, tremendously supportive. And now grief is not separate from this healing. I'm not saying that you won't feel sad if somebody dies. Of course you will. Of course. Grief is just love reorganizing itself, and it's such an important phase. So, yeah, healing continues through life, healing continues through death. So here's the practical takeaway I'd like you to leave with. When you can hold this wider stance, when you allow yourself to witness all the 4 octaves without collapsing into only one, something powerful happens. You maintain your center in the eye of the storm. You can stay oriented even when a diagnosis is frightening. You can choose from freedom rather than reactivity. You can stand in yourself even when someone you love is declining. You can remain connected to meaning, purpose, and love even as a physical body loses its hold. This inner position is stabilizing. It's stabilizing of everything, your body, your mind, your spirit, everything. It's transformational. It turns even the ugliest, most disorienting parts of an illness into a process that reveals coherence and connection and truth and love. And if this feels like too much to hold on your own, especially when you're in the middle of what can feel like a messily tumbling descent through a cancer journey, please know that that's why I'm here. My role is to help you hold your vertical axis of awareness when yours is shaking. I help you sense the threads of coherence, even when everything else is chaotic. And to help you stay connected to that quiet mind of existence, the quiet miracle of existence, even when that moment looks nothing like what you hoped for. And if you want support in cultivating this stance for yourself or someone you love, I offer a complimentary Get Acquainted call. And sometimes one conversation is enough to feel your feet back under you. Okay. Let's go on to the group distance healing now. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe and comment. And if you're watching this on Facebook, do the same. Like and subscribe. Go over to YouTube and like and subscribe. I feel like this message is so much more helpful and sophisticated than outcome reductionism. It's just a broader, truer, more powerful way. And you actually get better physical results when you look at things holistically.